were commenting on Sean Strickland, who's a UFC MMA fighter, a former UFC champion. He was talking about something along the lines of how a U.S. Navy SEAL can't stand, with him or compete in a UFC ring. Is that kind of what he said, or what was his tonality towards, someone of your caliber of warfare fighting? And then you made a response, I believe, saying, "Hey, we're a different breed. It's a different dynamic." Can you go into that a little bit?
So, I've obviously have heard about Sean Strickland. He's all over the internet. I don't watch a lot of UFC, but I obviously know of him, and he seems like a great guy, right? But I had a couple of my buddies, SEAL buddies, they kept on kind of telling me, "Hey, man, you hear about Sean Strickland calling out David Goggins?" And I was like, well, that's kind of stupid because they're just so different, And I have all the respect in the world for MMA fighters, real warriors. I mean, there's nothing better than going toe-to-toe with your opponent, right? And we're all Americans here, most of us, and we're all on the same team, right? And then my buddy sent me another SEAL buddy sent me a message with Sean Strickland, this video. And, brother, it comes down to this. I had way too many of my twin buddies and really, really good friends die. I mean, flat out die in training, drowning, getting lost out at sea, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, jumping accidents, diving accidents, getting shot in the face, literally through the eye, and still fighting. I've had my wig split, chin exposed, bleeding all over the place, grenade shrapnel, fighting it out.
Yeah, the real stuff, not a ring.
MMA isn't as real as it gets.
It's life or death.
It's life or death.
There's no one to throw in a white towel. You know what I mean? In what you're doing. So, what did Sean Strickland actually say? Did he call out David Goggins, saying he won't be able to stand toe with him, or what did he say about David Goggins? Do you know?
I don't follow Sean. I've seen a lot of his videos where he's, holding that mug with the "Don't Tread on Me" symbol. Well, that's the steel path, brother. We're on the same team here. And why are you saying really stupid remarks? And I say that semi-respectfully, but I don't have any respect for his type of character. And upon further examination, like I said, I didn't know much about him, but then I blasted him on social media. I sent off that message, and I get it. SEALs always used a little bit too much explosive to destroy the target, used a little bit too much to hit him real hard. But it was to send a message, is to show respect where respect is due, And according to him, SEALs don't fight for his freedom. Well, if you don't think that, at least respect the sacrifice. Because Sean, unlike all other MMA fighters that I know that have messaged me now, great support, John Jones, all these guys, look, unlike them, like, he doesn't realize that there is a sacrifice that's so far beyond his comprehension. It's far beyond my comprehension. And I've heard from podcasts out there, everybody's been unbelievably supportive, brother. Military veterans have flooded me. Of course, the SEAL teams are backing me all out. I've had hundreds of messages saying, "Bro, that was epic, dude. Shut his mouth, man." Because the SEAL team's in a scary place. And I call it the great humbling place. Because every man's got to be humbled in this life. It's humbled me greatly. Because I've seen guys that were way, way better than me, SEALs, that were way better than me, way more hardcore. I mean, there's some unbelievable guys out there, way harder than I ever was, die because they made a small, little bitty, tiny mistake.
And when you talk about sacrifice, I mean, we briefly talked on the phone. First of all, you're sacrificing a lot being away from your family. And that type of sacrifice, I don't think any MMA fighter or anybody that doesn't understand that, including myself, can relate to. There's a thing about going to a competition or a fight and getting a paycheck of $100,000 or $200,000. Some of these, MMA fights are cheaper, but on his level, I'm sure he's cashing in a pretty good amount. And coming back home and kissing your wife and your kids. And then there's this different sacrifice, which teams like you and anyone in the armed forces, they may never come back home. And, that could be the last time you kiss anybody in your family. And I think that's a different level. I think we also talked about briefly, and you mentioned, you're like, he beat up some Instagrammer. And I like Sean. I think Sean is like needed for America because, America's gotten kind of soft, right? Sean's calling people out and this and that. And he beat up this, social media influencer. I don't know who he is either, but, and I think that's great because people talk a lot of shit and they don't back it up nowadays. They think, keyboard warriors and all these Twitter battles. But at the end of the day, if it's not fair to compare, in my opinion, a Navy SEAL person or a Delta Force or a special forces from another country. They're not apples to apples. Like for you to fight Sean, let's say in a ring, yeah, Sean might have the advantage. That's what he trains for. I mean, that's what he does for 15 minutes. But you're not going to send Sean to jump out of an airplane into water we talked about, that rocky water, by the way, with what? You mentioned like 100 pounds of gear on to swim somewhere, to do this, to kill someone and be turned on. It's not comparable. And I think he doesn't realize that aspect when he spoke.
I would hope people would say, well, get in the ring with it. I would hope that Sean Strickland would smash me. Because if he did it, it would be extremely embarrassing for me to get in there and just freight train him, right? Now, I've broken my knuckles many times in bar fights, but I don't have any of the training that he has. We're trained in the SEALs, with pro MMA fighting and boxing coaches from around the world. But eventually we got to take the gloves off and then go to a place called war and sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Sacrifice our minds, our bodies. He mentioned in his response to me, I made a SEAL upset, and he needs to Google Snowden, to figure out the government's corrupt. If anyone knows about the government's being corrupt, bro, it's the SEAL teams in the war fighter. This ain't prize fighting. Yep. It's war fighters who were prosecuted when they came back home from this terrible, corrupt regime that we have right now. I don't gotta Google it. I was at James Haley Veterans Hospital. I know there wasn't nuclear weapons in Iraq, bro. That's not the point. It's the sacrifice that my swim buddies made. It's the sacrifice that the Marines, Rangers, PJs, all these dudes made, our service members. It's a sacrifice. And if you don't understand that mentality, that blows me away. John Jones' message. It says, I'm embarrassed to be called an MMA fighter right now. That was the dumb thing to say. Michael Bisping said, yo, man, what's up, dude? I mean, he's as humble as a kid. He lost an eye in the octagon.
They realized the difference. And John Jones, especially, who I think is one of the GOATs out there, maybe him, George St. Pierre, Khabib, in my book of watching UFC, and I'm not, again, I'd probably get killed in the ring, but John Jones has done SEAL or SWAT type training. I would say SWAT, where I've seen him, vested up and shooting and so forth. I think he respects law enforcement in that regard a lot. That's crazy that he messaged you because he realizes that I think Strickland either misspoke or underestimated what you guys really do. And what you guys really do is just, it's on a different level of sacrifice. I think that's the big word to use because, again, to just leave your family to go to an extremely, extremely hostile and dangerous situation, and not know what's going to happen, that's a different dynamic than to fight someone for 15 to 25 minutes.
Yeah, and here's the deal. Everybody out there is comparing 1 week of his training to Hell Week. I don't even want to talk about Hell Week. There's plenty of books out there about Hell Week. Everybody freaking knows already. It's hell. It's terrible. There's no sleep. You run with a 250-pound boat on your head. You get scalped like Bozo the Clown, skin grass on your thighs. You're swollen up. You can't even speak. There's no sleep whatsoever. The 45 minutes that you're talking to your freaking shoes because you're delusional. All right. And Sean's delusional for making comments like this because it's not about Hell Week, bro. It gets way worse. Training just gets worse and worse and worse. Now you're running on a fractured, almost broken, if not broken leg, but they don't pull you out. There ain't no ref to stop you. You get a cut on your face, ain't nobody gonna stop you. I've been, like I said, I've been split across my entire chin, bone hanging out, fighting, shooting back, and then thorns going through your hand from a big old cactus, just crazy stuff. There ain't nobody to stop you. Grenade shrapnel, and you gotta bang out or you die. And you keep going. Oh, you haven't had a drink in 2 days, almost 3 days in the desert? Sorry, bro. I'm not taking your water because I'm not a punk, bro. So you can see where this is going, man. It doesn't stop. Still, like, buds is nothing. Then you walk across the street and you realize you're not a SEAL, okay? You come over to SUT. Now you got to do crazy, dangerous stuff all the time. Okay, and it's not about surviving. Sean talks about surviving 1 week. 1 week in a controlled environment, bro. Come on, man.
I think it's ridiculous, man. There's no hospital nearby. There's no. You can't compare it, dude. It's insane.